Let's talk about biblical mentoring and specifically this question: how long should you mentor someone else? Let's say that you've entered into a mentoring relationship, a discipling relationship. Mentoring, biblical mentoring is just personally walking alongside someone to help them to pursue God. So let's say that you've been doing it for a while, you've been doing it for several months, and a real natural question is, well, how long should this relationship last? How long should I mentor this person? Well, there's a bunch of different ways to answer that question depending on your situation. One simple answer is Jesus mentored his disciples for about 3 years. So it's good to kind of have that number in mind, that you might sort of intentionally walk with someone for, 3 years. But I don't think you should think that your active mentoring of someone, what I mean by active mentoring is that you're mentoring them on a weekly or every other week basis, that you actively are mentoring them for 30 years. That's probably not the way you should think about it, because hopefully the person that you're mentoring at some point is going to start mentoring somebody else. And so naturally what's going to happen is your relationship with that person's going to change because they need to spend more time pouring into someone else's life. Here's a great way to think about it. Mentoring is a lot like parenting. So you pour into your young children, you have to be very intentional and hands-on with them, but over time, your parenting of them, you begin to pull back a little bit because they have to make their own decisions and walk on their own. And eventually, they're going to grow up and hopefully have their own family. And so now you get to be the grandparent. So mentoring works similar to that. You might be the father or mother of someone, spiritually speaking. You help lead them to Christ. That's great. But then over time, hopefully the goal is that they're not just going to always live with you, sort of spiritually speaking, but that over time they're going to grow and mature, and they're going to be able to then sort of be shoved out of the nest, and they're going to be able to pour into the lives of other people. And so what happens to you then is you become the grandparent and they become the spiritual parent. So if you think about how grandparenting works, a grandparent, I don't talk to my father that often, relative to when I was younger. My kids don't talk to him nearly as much as I talked to my dad when I was their age, because they have me to talk to, right? So spiritual mentoring works, biblical mentoring works the same way. You mentor someone else, and as they mature and pour into somebody else, then now your interaction with them changes necessarily, because now you become more of a coach. I'll sometimes call my dad and he'll give me some wisdom, insight on parenting, because he's already done it and he's done a good job with it. And so I respect him. And so spiritual mentoring works the same way. You might be mentoring somebody, then they're mentoring someone else, and your relationship begins to shift now. It's not that you can't still speak truth into that person's life, but you might now be helping them, sort of coaching them with somebody else. Here are a few other things that you should be aware of just real quick. There are additional factors that change your timeline. Number one, the person you're mentoring might bail on you. And if that happens, don't take it too personally. If you're mentoring somebody and they bail on you, you can't pursue God for someone else. You can't make them pursue God. So if you've engaged them, you've invited them into this relationship, and they just consistently fail to take you up on your gracious offer, you kind of need to maybe just back off a little bit. So they sort of change the timeline a little bit. And again, don't take that too personally. Don't beat yourself up over that. Jesus himself had somebody bail. He mentored 12 guys, and one of them, Judas, kind of bailed on him, right? So it's not up to you to pursue God for somebody. It's up to you to help someone pursue God, and you can only do your part. Here's the second thing you need to know. That person might bail on you and come back. So if somebody bails on you, you've been mentoring them, and then pretty soon they stop taking your phone calls, or they don't want to meet with you anymore. They come up with some excuses not to meet with you, whatever, and you're starting to take it personally. Listen, be gracious toward them. Keep that bridge there. Don't burn down that bridge, because they might come back to you. Just keep loving them, praying for them, maybe drop them a line every once in a while. And you might find that they are some situation will come up in their life, and they're going to come back to you, and they're going to take you up on that offer again, and you'll be able to pour into their life, and it could really change their life. So don't give up on that person that has bailed on you. And here's one more thing you need to be aware of. They might never want to leave. And listen, I know this is hard, but if you've been pouring into someone's life and they just love you so much and they're so committed to you, that's not a bad thing, except for if they don't ever want to step out and help someone else. You know, as a mentor, your job is to help someone go full circle. So that's gonna, at some point, you should absolutely expect, and they should absolutely expect, that at some point you're gonna kick them out of the nest and you're gonna challenge them to go start helping someone else. The last thing you wanna do is raise a bunch of consumers. You know, when Jesus left his disciples, they all whined and cried about it, right? But he said, I have to go. And if he would have stuck around, how much do you want to bet that his disciples would have never really fully gotten in the game? Mentors, you have to have an exit plan in mind, even from the very beginning. It might be a year down the road, it might be several months down the road, it might be 3 years down the road, but you should absolutely expect we're not just becoming best friends and best buddies for the rest of our lives, and then we have this holy huddle mentality, you know, where you're not looking outward anymore. Don't let your mentoring be about that. Jesus was never about that. And if you are a follower of Jesus, your mentoring shouldn't be about that. So you should understand the timeline and pray and expect that God is going to take that person that you're mentoring and help them to go out and do the exact same thing you're doing.